We're considering some of the basic questions behind Christianity, and this week we're looking at the question, why did Jesus have to die? So yesterday I hammered home at the idea of sin and the fact that we are broken and consequently separated from God. Today I want to explore the payment for sin. So the Bible talks about sin in a handful of ways. Let me just say one of them is an archery term. All sin and fall short of the glory of God. If I'm standing here with a bow and arrow and I'm shooting at a target here and the arrow lands here, we call this distance, they called this distance sin. The arrow fell short of the target. Another way that sin, another metaphor that is used for sin is the idea of debt. It's a moral debt that we cannot pay, at least cannot pay happily, because the payment for that moral debt is blood, and the amount of blood that is required is more than you can give and live. So one of the earliest teachings in the Bible, what undergirds the whole sacrificial system is that the currency for the payment for sins is blood, because what that really represents is life. Many people try to read through the Bible. They usually don't make it past Leviticus, which is the book written to the Levite priests, which contains all the instructions about how the priests are to handle the sacrificial system. And there's so much blood because they're talking about requiring the life of an innocent third party so that guilty people can go free, right? Because usually it's not the one who is guilty it's not the one that's guilty that is paying for that penalty, right? That happens at death. And so you have the sacrificial system set up so that the moral debt can be paid. It's paid by an innocent third party. And so people would they would come to the priest, they'd go to the altar, and depending upon who they were, depending upon how much money they had, depending upon what kind of sin they had committed, they would be instructed to bring a sacrifice. It could be a turtle dove, it could be, a goat, it could be a lamb, it could be a bull. I mean, it could be varying levels of cost and pain. But there would be some ritual and prayer, and the hands of the guilty person would go on the animal, and then the animal would be sacrificed. So all of that gets undergirded throughout the whole Old Testament, right? You see all the sacrificial system being developed early on with the Passover, when the lamb was shed and the blood was painted over the doorpost, so that the angel of death would know that the penalty, the punishment, the debt had been paid, and he would pass over that home. And then you see it developed in the sacrificial system that's given to Moses by God in the book of Exodus, and then it gets fleshed out in much greater detail. And you have it in other places, like, for instance, when Abraham is told to take his son Isaac, his only son, the son that he loves, and to go to this mountain and to sacrifice Isaac. Now, of course, it doesn't happen, but he's making the point that Abraham is guilty and that there needs to be an atonement. There needs to be a payment for that sin. And it also, of course, sets up the unthinkable horror of asking a father to send his son to his death, which, of course, is what God the Father will do. Now, I realize that you got lots of questions here. This whole thing sounds crazy. It sounds barbaric. And so let me just answer one of the questions that immediately comes up. Why does God require payment for sin? Why isn't God big enough? Why isn't God just nice enough to just say, okay, I'm not going to hold that against you. I'm just going to look the other way. I'm going to forgive you, and it's going to go away. Well, look, it's impossible for God to remain just if he does that. We don't call a judge that says to someone who's guilty of whatever, rape or murder or something like that, you know what? I'm feeling magnanimous today. I'm feeling loving. I'm feeling kind. We're gonna call it even. I'm just gonna say it doesn't matter. God can't do that, right? I mean, there are consequences. You matter too much for the consequences of your actions not to matter. And so God will have to come up with another plan. In order to remain perfectly just, he is going to have to come up with a payment for that debt. More on that tomorrow. Have a good day.